There's a certain kind of morning stiffness that no one warns you about when you're younger. You swing your legs out of bed, and instead of greeting the day with energy, you feel like your joints have turned to stone overnight. Knees that used to carry you easily up the stairs now creak in protest. And even simple pleasures, gardening, walking the dog, playing with grandkids can feel like uphill battles. If you've ever felt that quiet fear that your independence is slowly slipping away, you are not alone. I've seen it in my patients for decades, and I've felt it myself. But here's the surprising truth. Relief doesn't always come from a pill bottle. Sometimes it's found in the simplest places, like a steaming cup of tea. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today we'll uncover three ancient teas that melt joint pain naturally. Let me take you back to one of my patients, Margaret. She's 72, a retired librarian with a gentle laugh and a love for knitting. But a few years ago, her hands betrayed her. The simple act of holding knitting needles brought sharp jolts of pain. She described it as if tiny sparks were shooting through her joints every time she moved her fingers. She had tried over-the-counter medications, but the pills left her with stomach upset and restless nights. One afternoon, over a consultation, I asked her about her daily routines. She smiled faintly and said, "Doctor, I drink a lot of tea." That's when I suggested adding a very specific kind. Ginger tea. It sounded almost too simple, but she agreed to try. Within weeks, her pain softened, her hands loosened, and soon she was knitting scarves for her grandchildren again. Why did this work so well for Margaret? To understand, picture your joints like the hinges of a door. Over time, those hinges can get rusty, stiff, and creaky. In our bodies, that rust is inflammation. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogols, which act like natural oil for those hinges. Instead of masking the sound of the squeak, they actually penetrate deep into the joints and calm the fire of inflammation itself. Scientists have compared them to ibuprofen, but without the same risk of eroding your stomach lining or stressing your liver. A fascinating study published in Arthritis and Rheumatism showed that participants who consumed ginger regularly experienced significant reductions in knee pain, especially those with osteoarthritis. Imagine that. A simple root sitting quietly in your kitchen, working as effectively as powerful drugs but without the side effects. That's the kind of quiet miracle nature has been whispering to us for centuries. When you brew ginger into tea, something remarkable happens. The warmth of the water draws out those healing compounds, and as the steam rises, it feels almost ceremonial. Sip it slowly, and you can imagine the soothing compounds coursing through your bloodstream, calming the swollen tissues, easing stiffness, and giving your body back some of its rhythm. Many of my patients describe it as an internal massage, a gentle release that lets them walk, bend, and move with more freedom. Making it is beautifully simple. Slice an inch or two of fresh ginger root, add it to gently boiling water, and let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. Strain it into your favorite mug, add a squeeze of lemon for brightness, and perhaps a spoonful of honey if you enjoy a touch of sweetness. It's more than a recipe, it's a ritual, one that invites you to pause, breathe, and heal. The best time to drink ginger tea? I always suggest mornings. That's when your body is stiffest, when your joints feel like they've been locked overnight. Drinking ginger tea on an empty stomach allows your system to absorb the compounds more efficiently, setting a tone of healing for the rest of the day. For those with more stubborn pain, an evening cup can work wonders, loosening up the body so that sleep comes more easily. And ginger isn't limited to tea alone. Grated into a soup, blended into a smoothie, or paired with turmeric, it becomes a dynamic duo for joint pain relief. I often call ginger and turmeric the Batman and Robin of natural anti-inflammatories, each powerful on its own, but extraordinary together. Now, a gentle word of caution. If you're on blood thinners, or if you have a bleeding disorder, talk with your doctor before making ginger tea a daily habit. For most people, though, ginger is not only safe, it's life-changing. When Margaret returned months later, she was glowing. "Doctor," she said, "I thought my knitting days were over, but every morning when I drink my tea, I feel like I'm oiling my joints from the inside out." That's the beauty of ginger tea. It gives back pieces of life that pain tries to steal. And isn't that what we all want? Not just less pain, but more freedom, more independence, more joy in the little things. I remember another patient, Charles, a retired carpenter in his late 60s. His hands told the story of a lifetime of work, scarred, strong, but now stiff with arthritis. He told me, "Doc, it's like my joints have turned against me. The very hands that built homes can't even open a jar anymore." There was sadness in his voice, but also a spark of hope, because he wasn't ready to surrender to the pain. That's when I introduced him to turmeric tea, what many cultures have long called liquid gold. Turmeric is more than just a spice for curry. Inside this golden root lies a compound called curcumin, and curcumin is like a gentle locksmith for your joints. To explain, let's go back to that door hinge metaphor. If ginger oils the hinge, curcumin actually flips the switch that causes the rust in the first place. In scientific terms, it blocks a molecule called NF-kappa B. Think of NF-kappa B as a light switch in your body that controls inflammation. For many of us over 50, that switch is stuck in the on position, flooding our joints with fire. Curcumin helps turn it off, allowing the body to rest, repair, and heal. What makes turmeric tea especially powerful is how it's prepared. Warm water helps release the curcumin, and when paired with just a pinch of black pepper, absorption skyrockets. Black pepper contains piperine, which makes curcumin up to 2,000% more bioavailable. That's not a typo, 2,000%. It's as if the tea hands your body a key and says, "Here, unlock the healing potential." The first time Charles tried turmeric tea, he wasn't sure. The taste is earthy, slightly bitter, but when softened with cinnamon, ginger, lemon, or honey, it becomes soothing and almost comforting, like a sunrise in a cup. He made it part of his nightly routine, sipping slowly before bed. And over the weeks, something changed. The dull ache in his knuckles began to ease. He found he could sleep through the night without waking from throbbing pain. Months later, he brought me a small wooden box he had crafted, his first piece of carpentry in years. "I couldn't have done this without the tea," he said with a smile. Science backs up stories like Charles's. In 2016, a meta-analysis published in the Journal of Medicinal Food reviewed multiple clinical trials and found that turmeric extract significantly reduced pain and improved function in people with arthritis. The effect was comparable to some non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, but without the dangerous side effects that often come with long-term medication use. Turmeric doesn't work overnight. It's not a quick fix, and that's important to understand. It's a gentle healer. It builds up in your system, calming the immune response, easing the inflammation, and protecting your joints from further damage. Many people start noticing differences after 2 to 3 weeks of daily use. Less stiffness in the morning, easier movement, fewer flare-ups. To prepare it at home, you can slice a piece of fresh turmeric root or use a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Simmer it gently in water for 10 minutes, add your black pepper, and stir in optional ingredients for flavor and extra healing, like ginger for warmth or cinnamon for added anti-inflammatory support. Strain it into a mug, maybe add honey for sweetness, and sip while it's warm. Some prefer it in the morning to ease into the day with loosened joints, others at night to calm inflammation before sleep. But here's where turmeric tea goes beyond pain relief. Curcumin is also a powerful antioxidant, which means it protects your joints from free radicals, tiny unstable molecules that accelerate aging and wear and tear. In a way, every cup is like giving your joints a shield, not only easing today's pain, but also protecting tomorrow's mobility. Of course, a word of care. If you're taking blood thinners or certain medications, it's wise to speak with your doctor before adding large amounts of turmeric to your diet. Nature is powerful, but it must always be respected. For Charles, turmeric tea didn't just soothe his arthritis. It gave him back his craft, his pride, and his joy. And that's what I want for you too. Because when you feel lighter in your body, when the pain loosens its grip, life opens up again. And sometimes that freedom begins with something as simple as a golden cup of tea. Not long ago, a woman named Helen came to see me. She was 68, a retired teacher with a sharp wit and a love for long walks. But her walks had been cut short. "Doctor," she said, "I can barely make it to the corner without my knees screaming at me." She had tried aspirin and ibuprofen, but they left her with stomach cramps and acid reflux. "It feels like I'm trading one pain for another," she sighed. That's when I told her about willow bark tea, a remedy so old it predates modern medicine itself. 2,000 years ago, even Hippocrates, the man we call the father of medicine, wrote about chewing willow bark to relieve aches and fever. What makes it so remarkable is a natural compound called salicin. When your body digests salicin, it turns into salicylic acid, which you might recognize as the basis for aspirin. The difference is that willow bark doesn't carry the same harsh side effects. It eases pain and inflammation gently, sparing the stomach and the gut from the irritation so many of my patients struggle with. Think of salicin as a quiet caretaker in your joints. Where inflammation is raging like a wildfire, salicin moves in to cool the flames, particularly by blocking a pathway called COX2. This enzyme is one of the main culprits in arthritis, swelling, and stiffness. By calming COX2, willow bark helps loosen the grip of pain, but it doesn't stop there. This ancient bark is also rich in flavonoids and polyphenols, powerful antioxidants that act like shields for your cartilage, protecting it from further wear and tear. When Helen first tried willow bark tea, she wrinkled her nose at the taste. It's more earthy and bitter than ginger or turmeric, not a cozy kitchen spice, but more like the raw strength of the forest itself. Yet she kept at it. One cup in the afternoon, another in the evening. Within a few weeks, her walks stretched longer. She reached the park again, then the little pond she used to love. "I feel like I got a piece of my life back," she told me, tears in her eyes. To prepare willow bark tea, you'll need dried willow bark, available from a trusted herbal supplier. Add 1 or 2 teaspoons to about a cup and a half of water. Bring it to a boil, then let it simmer gently for 10 to 15 minutes. Strain it into a cup and, if you prefer, soften the flavor with lemon or a drizzle of honey. The bitterness may take getting used to, but remember, this bitterness is nature's medicine, an echo of the tree's resilience flowing into your body. Studies support what Helen and so many others have experienced. Research published in Phytotherapy Research found that willow bark was effective in reducing pain in patients with osteoarthritis, without the gastrointestinal side effects common to synthetic aspirin. It's nature's original pain reliever, validated by both history and modern science. Still, a word of caution, because willow bark works in a way similar to aspirin, it's not for everyone. If you're on blood thinners, if you've had ulcers, asthma, or an allergy to salicylates, it may not be the right fit. Always check with your doctor before making it a regular part of your routine. For many people, though, it's a game changer. What I love most about willow bark is the reminder it carries. Long before pharmaceutical companies, before laboratories, people turned to the bark of a tree and found healing. It's humbling to think that the same remedy that soothed pain in ancient Greece can still help us today. And for those of us over 50, when pain begins to creep into daily life, it's comforting to know that nature still offers us this timeless gift. Helen now walks every morning, sometimes for over an hour. She told me once, "It's not just the tea, it's the hope it gave me, that I'm not finished yet. And that's the truth I want you to hold on to." Pain doesn't have to define you. Independence isn't lost just because the years are adding up. Sometimes healing begins with a warm, earthy sip from a tree that has been standing tall for centuries, waiting to share its strength. So here we are, after walking through ginger, turmeric, and willow bark, 3 ancient teas with the power to calm the fire of joint pain, to loosen the hinges that time has stiffened, and to return a sense of freedom to your days. What I hope you've heard in these stories is that healing doesn't always come from the strongest pill or the newest prescription. Sometimes it's waiting in a teapot, in traditions handed down for generations. Ginger with its warming kick, turmeric with its golden shield, willow bark with its quiet strength, each one a gift of nature that can bring relief and restore hope.